right, so I've got 3 pairs of shoes here from 3 different companies, and they're all really good shoes. I've got the Hoka Evo Mafate here, all right, which is my new shoe. I really like it a lot. It's a very lightweight shoe. I would consider this shoe ultra lightweight, but other people, they might not. It is a lightweight shoe. It's got Kevlar on the top, very protective top, and it's got 5mm lugs on the bottom. The rubber that these lugs are made out of is the toughest, stickiest rubber that Vibram makes that they allow someone else to use. So you've got the toughest materials on the shoe, and it's a really interesting shoe. And I'll talk more about it in a second. I've also got the Lone Peak 4.0 here. This is a great shoe for living outside. If you're going to be canoeing, fishing, hanging out at the campsite, talking to friends, playing guitar, this is a good shoe. It's better for the Hoka One. It's better than the Hoka One when it comes to hanging out, playing guitar, and talking to friends. You want the Lone Peak. But as far as hiking really long distances, you would want the Evo Mafate, and I'm going to explain that in a second. And then I've got this old school shoe. This is the Salomon XA Pro 3D, and I used this shoe for all of 2017, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to talk about the contrast between this shoe and what works about this shoe, and what's so different about these 2 other shoes that you've got. Basically Salomon is kind of like Nike or Adidas. It's an old school shoe. The technology in this shoe is from the 80s and the 90s, and it's more or less foolproof. It's bomb-proof. Millions of people have hiked or they've used shoes for sports like this. These are the kind of shoes that made athletes famous, like Michael Jordan and Carl Lewis, and even Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner, he became Kylie Jenner. They all got famous during the 80s and the 90s using shoes that are kind of like the Salomons. There's no real new technology in these Salomons, but the technology that's in here is tried and true, and it worked for so many athletes. Tiger Woods, whoever, all of the greats from the 90s, they all used a shoe like this. And so it does have some really obvious advantages, and it really is like a go-to. The Salomon, there's a lot of things about the Salomon that you just can't beat. And then you've got these other 2 companies. You've got the Ultra, and you've got the Hoka One. All right, so right off the bat, this company is called Hoka One, and that means flying over the earth, like in Hawaiian or something. And the name of the shoe is the Evo Mafate. Right away, I want to tell you that the Evo Mafate is better than the other Hokas, and there are several different kinds of Hokas. There's like 20 or 30 different shoes, but most of them are they get holes in the top. They're not really as durable as this Kevlar. The big difference between the Hoka and the Ultra is Ultra has got a wide splayed toe box, and the Hoka has got a narrow toe box. Okay, so this one's got a narrow toe box that kind of squishes your toes together, and this one's got a wide toe box that allows your toes to spread out. Now, with all of that kind of explained, I'm going to get into some really crazy aspects of the Hoka One Evo Mafate. This shoe is not the same as the other Hokas. It's way tougher, and it's way crazier. It's got 5mm teeth on the bottom that are kind of like alligator teeth. These teeth literally kind of bite down and grip the ground, okay? They've got an incredible cushion. This is like a computerized bottom on the shoe, where they've got an incredible cushion on the sole, on the heel. So when you step down on your heel, you feel this incredible sense of cushion. And it's very intuitive. It isn't really predictable the way that the old school Salomons are. The Salomons are really predictable, and they kind of feel the same all the time. That's not true about these new school shoes. They use this kind of funny rubber where it performs differently on different days. It performs differently on how you lace up the shoe. It also performs differently based on your energy level. As you step down on your heel, you feel this incredible sense of cushion, and then you feel it again. It's got this great cushion on the front. Plus, it's got kind of a spring to it that kind of launches you forward. So it's got an incredible amount of technology and innovation in the bottom of the shoe. It's based on the concept of extreme amounts of intuitive responsiveness to your step. So as you step harder while running, when you run, you kind of land harder. The shoe starts to perform better and better the harder down you step and the faster you go. The slower you go, the more the less the shoe performs, basically. The intent of this shoe is to remove leg pain. So if you have a heavy pack that's like 100 pounds, you're going to be able to carry it farther without leg pain with this shoe on. It's going to cushion your feet so that the shock wave of pain that goes up your leg to your hips, you're not going to feel it as much with this shoe on. If you can run 18 miles, you'll suddenly be able to run a marathon. If you can run a marathon, you suddenly will be able to run an ultra marathon. If you were going to hike 5 miles, you'll hike 10. If you usually hike 15, you'll hike 20, etc. It removes leg pain and allows you to hike farther, faster, more often, all the time. The big issue with the shoe, though, is that it isn't for sitting around. It's a tight shoe, and it kind of cuts off the circulation in your foot. If you wear this shoe on the bus, or if you're in a hostel kind of sitting around, you'll notice that your foot is kind of getting cold because it's a tight shoe. And on at least one occasion, my entire left leg was like completely asleep. I got off the bus and my left leg was actually like dead. So another issue is that the reason the shoe is tight is to hold your foot in this sweet spot right above this ultra responsive bottom. So there's like all this technology in the bottom that's super responsive to your step if your shoe is held precisely in this sweet spot above the sole, above the lugs. All right, so as the shoe wears in, this Kevlar kind of spreads out a little, and so do the laces. The laces have a little bit of stretch, and that causes the shoe to kind of get a little bit wider and to have a little bit of wiggle as you wear them in. So your first day of wearing them, they're super tight and super responsive and springy, but as you wear them in, they kind of loosen up and they get a little bit wiggly, and they are a narrow shoe, so that isn't what you want. You know, you want the shoe laced up correctly, and you want your foot directly over that sweet spot. It is kind of a tight shoe. It's not a good shoe for sitting around and doing nothing. It's not a good shoe for living in. It's just a great shoe for traveling fast and far and light. So when you're traveling fast on the trail, the shoe is awesome. When you slow down and stop moving fast, you notice right away the performance of the shoe kind of... There's like 30 different Ultras, and this is a really popular one, the Lone Peak 4.0, but I guess the Lone Peak 3.5, it wore down on cement, the shoe would fall apart, so they made the rubber on the bottom of the 4.0 tougher so that it doesn't wear down on cement, but they reduced the amount of foam that's underneath the shoe, and so this shoe, the 4.0, doesn't really hike as far as the 3.5 or the 3.0. So there's a bunch of different kinds of Ultras, and it's difficult to figure out which one is the right one. They are different sizes. Some of the Ultras are a half an inch short. Some of them are a little long. Some of them have a lot of cushion on the bottom. Some of them don't. Some of them are hard and heavy. Some of them are soft and cushiony. The 4.0, this is a great barefoot water shoe. You don't need to wear socks. You can sit in a canoe with water in the bottom of the canoe and get your shoes real wet, and then hang out and cook at the campsite and play guitar and talk to friends. But this is not a great shoe for hiking in because it doesn't have a lot of cushion under the sole. They've got other versions of it like the 3.5 and the 3.0 that are more popular for hiking. Some people say the Timp 1.5 or the Olympus 1.0 are also good. Or maybe the Timp 3.5 or the Lone Peak 3.0. It's difficult to say which one is going to be good. They do come in different sizes. They're all different. But one weird thing is that Hoka and Lone Peak are very similar. If you look at them from the side, the way that we buy these shoes is off the internet. And if you look at photographs of the sole on these shoes, they're really, really similar to each other. So, there's a lot of photographs of Hokas that look really similar to photographs of Ultras. And they also have a really similar website. Hoka and Ultra, they both offer like the same 30-day guarantee where you're allowed to wear it and experiment with it for 30 days before mailing it back, and blah, blah, blah. There are some definite issues with that. With Ultra, you get 30 days to wear it and mail it back, but when you mail this back, they send you like a USPS sticker that doesn't have tracking. USPS hands it off to like UPS or FedEx, and then it takes like 6 weeks for them to get it. So if you wanted to buy Ultras off the internet and try different ones until you found the one that best suited you, you would need a 6-week window in between each pair of shoes. So if like you ordered the Timp 1.5s and they showed up too short because like they're a half an inch short, and you wanted to switch them out for one that for the next size up, you would have to wait 6 weeks to try the next size up. If you're ordering these off the internet and sending them back, it takes forever. But they are really similar companies. They have really similar websites, and they use really similar materials. They also, this one has got mountains drawn on the side, and this one has got a seagull on the side. So they're pretty similar, but basically, one of the big issues is that you don't get the same old plain Jane technology that you got from Nike, Adidas, and Reebok. Those shoes, all the technology that those shoes researched over the years and kind of perfected during the 80s and the 90s, you get that with the Salomon. You don't get that with the Ultra and the Hoka. These use brand new technology that they find in factories in China. It's got a different kind of foam than the old school. It's got a different kind of rubber on the bottom than the old school. Everything about these shoes is new. The big difference between the Hoka and the Ultra is Ultra has got a wide splayed toe box, and the Hoka has got a narrow toe box, okay? So this one's got a narrow toe box that kind of squishes your toes together, and this one's got a wide toe box that allows your toes to spread out. But basically, this quick draw system that they've got on the Salomon, this really puts your foot into the sweet spot of the shoe much easier. Also, it just kind of has a basic like rubber pad. It's just got like football pads or soccer, like shin guards, like soccer padding for your shins, but it's on the bottom of your foot. So all this does is it's just a protective padding of rubber that protects your foot from the ground. And you'd be surprised, you can hike 8 hours a day in this shoe. It's just protective padding for your foot. So if you've ever played contact sports like lacrosse or hockey or football, and you notice that the more pads you wore, the easier it was to play because the less discomfort you felt from playing, because as people hit you, you didn't really feel it because of the padding. That's how this works. This is just padding for your foot. It's got it on the toe. It's got like a cross trainer heel. It's kind of a high heel that's narrow, and it does have some wiggle to it. You can roll your ankle maybe in this, but this is just protection for your foot. That's all it is. It's got like a rubber upper skeleton. It's got this rubber bottom area, and it's got this. It doesn't have laces. It's got this quick draw that closes the shoe. It kind of has like ribs or like a skeleton around it. It just places your foot in that sweet spot and gets it right all the time. The cushion that they use on the bottom of this shoe is not innovative in any way. It's the same old thing. The cushion, all the foam and everything that you get in the bottom of the shoe is the same as what you got 10 or 20 years ago. And that's how companies get rich. Companies get rich by not spending money. This is an old design for a shoe. It's an old shoe. And that's why they make so much money. Salomon is a rich company. They make skis and what have you, and it's because they don't spend it. They don't spend money on new technology. The total opposite is true with the Lone Peak and the Hoka, but you're not guaranteed to get the perfect thing. The Lone Peak 4.0 is a good example. This isn't a great hiking shoe. It's an awesome camping shoe and an awesome outdoor shoe, rafting, fishing, etc., but it's not great for hiking long distances. If you try to hike for 8 hours for 3 days in a row, basically by the second day you'll find out that you can't. You can't hike that far in this. With the Hoka One Evo Mafate, you can hike really far, but as soon as you stop to make camp or whatever, you're going to notice that the shoe is kind of funny. It's kind of uncomfortable. You definitely cannot wear this shoe barefoot. This Kevlar on top is very coarse. It has a tendency to rub against the top of your toes, on the sides of your toes. The tongue has to be pulled up when you lace it up. If you let the tongue kind of slide down, that folds the Kevlar down onto your toes and increases the amount of abrasion on your toes. You definitely could get blisters from this shoe. You've got to wear thick protective socks with this shoe. And if you don't wear thick protective socks, if you do wear protective socks that are thick, that reduces the amount of real estate that you have inside the shoe. The shoe's already tight, and those thick protective socks just make the shoe even more tight and less comfortable. It's harder to hang out and do nothing in the shoe with big protective socks on because there's hardly any room in the shoe to begin with. And then if you wear thin socks with this shoe, you will feel the scratchiness of the Kevlar against your toes, you know, even with a thin sock on.